Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're really tearing into something interesting. This stack of material about what happens after the homework stops.
Mm-hmm.
We spend years, maybe decades, like laser focused on school, chasing grades, getting degrees.
Right, all that formal structure.
Exactly. And then, boom, graduation hits. And, well, for a lot of people, that whole engine of self-improvement, that daily, deliberate learning, it just sort of evaporates.
And that phenomenon, that sudden stop, that's the paradox we're diving into. Our sources are pretty clear on this. They argue education isn't, a building you go to.
Right.
It's a way of life, an ongoing one. And really, the only things you need are some time and genuine curiosity.
So our mission here is to kind of distill that, right? Figure out the mindset shifts, the practical steps, the small things you need for what we're calling this daily practice of internal self-education.
Exactly. How small acts lead to real transformation.
We're trying to unpack that secret, that consistent, almost quiet growth. The main idea from these sources seems to be you don't need a big formal plan.
No timetable, no pressure.
Right, just curiosity, figuring out how to keep that little flame of hunger going, turning those micro actions into, well, something real.
Okay, so let's get into it. That big shift that happens post-graduation.
Yeah, well, look at someone who just graduated. Suddenly, the structure's gone, isn't it?
Totally. No teacher, no assignments.
No deadlines, no exams looming. And the sources point out that for, like, a huge chunk of people, this is exactly where things just stall.
Mm-hmm. They treat it like a task they finished.
Yeah, like, okay, done with education? Check. Instead of seeing it as, I don't know, the operating system for a good life.
And what's really fascinating is how these sources talk about where learning actually happens once you're out of that lecture hall.
Okay.
Because, yeah, the formal classroom door closes, but then the whole world kind of becomes the curriculum.
So not just books and papers.
Well, yes, you can learn from a technical manual or, a dense academic paper, of course. But you can also get huge insights from just watching someone be kind to a stranger.
Or messing something up at work.
Definitely. Analyzing a mistake, or even just taking a quiet moment, reflecting on a choice you made earlier. The world teaches if you listen.
But, okay, straight away, there's this hurdle the materials mentioned, these limiting beliefs we all seem to carry around.
Yes, the inner critic.
Right. We're sort of conditioned to think learning is for the young or, people with some special talent. That voice saying, oh, I'm too old for that, or I'm just not smart enough.
And that's not just a fleeting thought, is it? The sources really frame this as a fixed mindset. It's like a psychological wall.
Believing your abilities are set in stone.
Exactly. And it just paralyzes growth. So the antidote they push, the whole point of this daily practice, is fostering a growth mindset.
Which is about?
Fundamentally, it's about willingness. That's the key. Not how old you are or how talented you think you are. It's just being willing to try.
Okay, but let me push back a little here. If it's just willingness, is all effort equal? Like if I'm trying to run a business or learn some complex coding, is the internal lesson about being kinder really the same value as spending 5 solid hours on, say, new software?
That's a really important point. It's about balance. The sources are definitely clear.
Yeah.
If you need to acquire a specific hard skill, yeah, that takes focused effort, no doubt.
Okay.
But think of this internal self-education as like the lubricant for that.
Okay. How so?
Well, if your mindset is tired or brittle or you're terrified of failing, which is where that self-kindness comes in, you're just not going to sustain those 5 hours of software training. You'll burn out or give up.
Got it. So even one small internal lesson a day kind of keeps the engine oiled, keeps you flexible.
Exactly. It keeps the mind flexible, keeps your perspective fresh. It primes you for the harder stuff. Which brings us nicely to the practical side, the how-to. If we know time is limited, motivation waxes and wanes. How do we actually make self-education happen consistently?
Yeah, the nuts and bolts.
Well, the core idea is that most real growth in life, it rarely comes from those huge dramatic moments or milestones.
Like getting the degree itself.
Right. It's built more subtly, drop by drop, from these small, repeatable things we do or could do every single day.
Okay, so let's get really specific. No more vague advice. What do these tiny efforts actually look like? The sources give some great, almost embarrassingly simple examples.
Yeah, like reading one single page of a book that inspires you.
Just one.
Just one. Or maybe watching, say, a 90-second explainer video on YouTube about something you've always wondered about.
Or that 5-minute rule they mentioned, setting a timer and just tackling something hard for exactly 300 seconds.
The key philosophy here is consistency, not intensity. That's crucial.
Right. We trip ourselves up aiming too high.
Totally. We say, okay, tonight I'm going to study for 2 solid hours. Then life happens, we fail, we feel guilty, and we just quit.
Been there.
Yeah, I think we all have. So instead, the sources suggest leveraging something called habit stacking.
Okay, explain that. How does habit stacking work for learning?
It's pretty simple, actually. You attach the new, tiny learning habit you want to build onto an existing routine you already do automatically. Like, read that one page while you have your morning coffee, or listen to that short educational podcast snippet while you brush your teeth.
Ah, linking it.
Exactly. You're linking the new behavior to an old, ingrained one. And the power of that small act, it's not just psychological, it's actually neurological. You're literally building new pathways.
And the math they used was compelling, too.
Right. 1 page a day doesn't sound like much, but that's 30 pages in a month. Learn one new concept or word each morning. That's, 365 over a year? Hundreds, anyway.
It's compound knowledge.
It is. The growth feels subtle day to day, but it becomes exponential over time.
I love that real-world example they cited. The listener trying to improve her English listening skills.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
She didn't sign up for classes or anything intense. She just watched a short, 5-minute English news clip every morning.
While brushing her teeth, right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Habit stacking. And because it was so easy, she never missed it. 6 months later, her comprehension was way better, and she barely felt like she'd studied it all.
That's perfect momentum in action. So the real takeaway here for you listening is don't wait around for motivation to strike.
Because it might not.
It's fickle, it comes and goes. Instead, focus on manufacturing momentum.
How's momentum different?
Momentum is more mechanical. You just start. You take that first tiny step, read the 1 page, watch the 5-minute video, and that action itself makes the next step easier. It wakes up the system.
Okay, but let me circle back to the ambition question. If we're only doing these micro things, are we kind of selling ourselves short? Does this gentle growth really cut it for, say, mastering a complex skill or leading a big project?
That's fair, but it's maybe about seeing it differently. It's not instead of the heavy lifting, it's the foundation for it. The sources suggest this gentle growth is really the preparation for intensity. When you build that daily habit of learning, even small things, you're sharpening your focus, your ability to absorb stuff, to connect ideas.
So when a big challenge does come along,
Right. You don't panic or freeze up. Your mind is already kind of conditioned to ask, okay, how do I break this down? What's the first step?
yeah,
Rather than just running away, that gentle consistency builds the resilience you need for the big sprints. So, okay, momentum is the engine. What's the fuel?
got to be curiosity, right?
Absolutely. That's what the sources call the heart of self-education. And I think that's spot on.
Yeah, because if learning feels like homework, like a duty,
Mm.
it's just heavy.
Yeah. Drudgery. But when you're genuinely curious about something, learning feels more like breathing. It's just natural, necessary, effortless almost.
And it changes how you handle tough stuff, too.
Hugely. Curiosity is what turns challenges from roadblocks into, launch pads. Think about when something goes wrong, a mistake, a conflict. The default defensive question is usually, ugh, why is this happening to me?
Which gets you nowhere.
Exactly. It's self-absorbed, keeps you stuck blaming things. But curiosity flips the script.
How? What's the curious question?
It's more like, okay, what can I learn from this? From this mess, this frustration, this person?
Okay. That opens things up.
Completely. It shifts frustration towards discovery, fear towards exploration. Like, say, a client meeting tanks. The defensive mind blames the client, right?
They were difficult.
Yeah. But the curious mind asks, what cues did I miss there? How could I have approached that differently for next time?
And that ability to ask questions, especially when things don't go well, that's really valued, isn't it?
Oh, massively. The materials emphasize that people who keep that sense of wonder alive are just way more adaptable, more creative, wiser, ultimately.
Yeah, they mentioned that the most successful people often aren't the ones with the fanciest degrees.
Not necessarily. They're the ones who just never stopped asking questions. Never stopped listening deeply, always wondering, how does this work? How can I understand this better?
That makes sense.
And think about how it plays out in relationships, too. Real human education happens there when you apply genuine curiosity to other people.
Asking real questions, not just waiting to talk.
Exactly. And actually listening to the answers with genuine interest, you're gathering data on human experience. That's incredibly valuable knowledge. It's education through connection, not competition.
Right.
Essential for teams, families, everything.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. From the input, what you're learning, to the output, who you actually become through this process.
Right, because the goal isn't just collecting facts.
Precisely. Daily self-education at its core is about transformation, not just information hoarding.
Yeah, that distinction feels really important. You could read 100 books, listen to tons of podcasts, and still basically be the same person, react the same ways. But the sources say just one small insight, if you really let it sink in, if it touches your heart, changes your perspective.
Yeah, that can fundamentally change how you live.
There was that great anecdote they shared about the man who never went to
Oh,
university.
the notebook guy. Yeah.
Right. But he had this strict personal practice. Learn one new thing every single day for like over 20 years. And he kept this small physical notebook filled with observations, reflections.
So when they asked him if he remembered it all, his answer was perfect.
Wasn't it? He said something like, I can't remember all of it, but every single line shaped who I am.
Which tells you the point wasn't perfect recall.
Not at all. It was the process. The act of noticing, writing it down, thinking about it. Even if the specific memory faded, that act reinforced his identity as a learner. The goal was evolution.
Becoming.
Yes. And this speaks to that feeling of invisible growth, too. You know, when you feel like you're putting in the effort but not seeing huge, obvious results.
Yeah, that can be frustrating. Am I even getting anywhere?
Right. The sources encourage us to trust the process. Think about a big oak tree. Most of its critical work happens underground, unseen.
Roots spreading out.
Exactly. Growing deeper, wider, building strength before you see the new leaves or branches shoot up. Those daily little lessons, they're your roots. Building that internal structure, even if it's not visible yet.
So the payoff isn't always immediate or flashy. It's more about internal resilience, flexibility.
That's a huge part of it. When self-education becomes this quiet, daily habit, you just gradually get stronger on the inside. You start facing life's bumps, work setbacks, personal stuff with a bit more calm.
More perspective.
Yeah, more wisdom, maybe more grace. You're not constantly scrambling because you've built this foundation of practiced understanding. So wrapping things up, the core takeaway for you, the listener, success here isn't about external validation.
No grades, no promotions necessarily tied to
But
this.
you don't need to rush. You don't need to impress anyone. This is purely for you. Nobody's keeping score. Think of this daily practice as a quiet form of hope.
A constant nod to your own potential.
Exactly.
And remembering that success is measured way more by who you're becoming than by what specific facts you can list off. Every time you choose to, read an article instead of just scrolling endlessly.
Or pause and reflect instead of just reacting.
Yeah, that is a practice. Even choosing patience when it feels impossible, that's putting knowledge into action, isn't it?
It really is. Which leads to maybe one final thought to chew on, something provocative. We've talked about learning external skills, coding, languages, whatever.
The usual stuff.
But the sources hint strongly that this self-education applies just as much, maybe even more profoundly, to our internal world.
Like what?
Well, they mention things like learning how to rest without feeling guilty, or learning how to sit with discomfort, or even learning when to push harder.
Ah, so not just external knowledge, but internal wisdom.
Precisely. We often focus on skills for the outside world, but maybe the deepest transformation happens when you turn that quiet, persistent curiosity inward. What if the most important thing you learned today wasn't about the stock market or history, but just how to be a little bit kinder or more patient with yourself?
That's something to think about.
Keep learning, keep becoming.